Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Strength Solutions Podcast. We're on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review us. YouTube. Also, subscribe, like, and check out this guy with the hat. Then, if you're looking for a website, strengthsolutionspodcast.com. We got free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Email Strength Solutions Podcast. That's where you can email us future fitness questions. And social media, Facebook, TikTok is still on. And Instagram, Strength Solutions Podcast.
There we go.
The tickety talk is still on.
It's just a little break.
A little break for the Zuck.
I know that we're not going to talk about this, but it's like I was a little happy, bro, that it was gone. I was like, it's kind of nice, man. I was like, the whole social media platform just gone in an instant, and I was like, it's kind of nice to have more space. Maybe people won't be on social media so much anymore. Maybe it'll be nice. And it was just back the next day.
Yeah, it's great that they hide the Democrat stuff.
Uh-oh.
We'll go there. Oh, meta. All right, let's just get back to what we're doing.
Yeah. Fitness.
Fitness. That's all you can talk about is fitness. You have nothing else in life but fitness. All right, we're going to talk about how we would use each modality.
Okay.
I didn't put them on there.
Yeah.
So that I surprise you. So the first modality is something like kettlebells and a functional training, quote unquote. And why I do like that.
Yeah.
I don't like it as a muscle building routine.
Yes, I think that's a really good point to make, that I wouldn't really consider kettlebells to be like a primary source of strength training or to build muscle mass. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you could build a pretty good physique with it, right? But if you want to build big muscles or get super, super strong, like you just can't, even just with the shape of the equipment, it's just like you can only get it to be so heavy,
Yeah. And also you use a lot of momentum within it. And so what I like that type of training for is really to develop strength in different planes.
Very
and
good.
I think that is what's really, really good at.
Yeah. Or through like maybe, I don't want to say bigger ranges of motion, but faster ranges of motion, right? Like I would almost consider kettlebell training a lot more power based.
The absorption of force, right?
The absorption of force and direction of force, right? Being able to move it and not take injury, things like that. I mean, like just taking a kettlebell swing, for example, right? A simple movement that I'm pretty sure most people have done in some way.
Which incorrectly a lot of times.
Yeah, done incorrectly can cause injury, right? I mean, think about it. If you're swinging 60 pounds underneath you, I mean, you could fucking literally just fall on your head, or something. Yeah. And so using the core control, understanding where to place that weight, when to move it, how to like transfer that energy through, I think it's very, very good. Another one that I would say that kettlebells are good for is stability.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're also very good for stability training. Just, again, because of the shape of the equipment itself.
Yeah, the direction at which it pulls forces straight down. Right? And now we're talking about bodybuilding. Why I like bodybuilding. I like it for the function of isometrics or isometrics and isolating body parts because sometimes one body part is weaker than another body part, and you could figure out what's the weak link in your chain with bodybuilding training. Yeah.
And, we often talk about how if you're a beginner, bodybuilding is probably the most general style, right? That's going to give
user-friendly.
Yeah. User-friendly is a great way. It's ergonomic. Type of training modality that most people can get into relatively easily, right? It uses a lot of machines and cables and things like that. So if you are a beginner or someone, that's probably the way that I would think about training someone at the beginning, right? Learning how to do unilateral movements, right? Another big aspect of bodybuilding. Imbalances, right?
Learning how to feel the muscle.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That's a super good point. Yeah. Getting in connection, right? Because most people don't, I mean, I've had some clients that just don't even know how to move their body,
Correct,
at the beginning. And it makes sense, if you've never done anything, especially I have clients who are older and, them that first day with me is their first time ever doing any type of exercise,
Yeah. So I think in that modality too, it's not just feeling the bicep, but understanding how the bicep works. So having your hands like this, having your hands turned over, having your hands neutral, your elbows behind you, your elbows in front of you, your elbows next to you. How do I activate the bicep in each range of motion and isolate that muscle?
That's a really good point to make too, because it's also like, in a sense, an educational way of training, right? It teaches you a lot about your own anatomy, about how the body works, the reason you do certain things, right? The reasons why you do a squat, the reasons why you do these types of exercises. And I think clients appreciate that, to understand, why they're doing something instead of being all like, oh, it's a super secret move. It's my super secret special Edwin move.
Just go like this. It's the Edwin special.
Don't ask me about why. Just do it.
There is no secret to fitness.
There is no.
The next modality I want to talk about is powerlifting and strongman kind of together.
Okay.
But they're a little bit different.
People off. Yeah.
Might piss off Austin here.
Yeah.
But I know they're different.
They are, yes.
But I want the main where they're the same is developing the most strength possible.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Now, powerlifting and I'm going to go over powerlifting first, I guess. I think that it's also, in a way, a good thing for beginners if you do it at a certain percentage of weight that you can actually handle. But the fact that you're focusing primarily almost everything on the big compound movements, like the squat, the deadlift, the bench, overhead press, if you're adding that in, maybe you're doing some type of row or a carry or something like that, right, to supplement those other things. Those are your big movements, right? Those are the ones that you kind of want to focus on regardless of whatever sort of modality you choose. I think it's really good to really integrate those patterns and just get really fucking good at squatting, right? Really good at deadlifting, really good at bench pressing. Because if you're really good at those, most likely the other exercises are going to come around pretty easily.
Yeah, and so there's a big separation when it comes to strongmen.
Oh, yeah.
And strongmen have endurance. They have to train in different planes.
Yeah.
But you get to be strong in each plane of motion that you're in. And I think that's the difference between the two.
Yeah.
You still have to squat. You still have to deadlift. You still have to press.
And you still got to do it at a high percentage, right? Yeah.
I think, to me, strongman, for most people today, is probably the closest thing that they need to learn how to lift, because people have lost the ability to be in extension, and people have lost the ability to flex just in the core, like, and keep it strong.
These guys are doing things that would, straight up snap someone else in half. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think in terms of, it's funny, one of my clients was bringing up the fact that we were talking about hybrid athletes the other day because he was trying to piss me off.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Gotta know who
and
that
he was like, yeah, I think I want to train and start trying to do like hybrid athlete stuff. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. But if I had to really use that term and apply it to something, I would say that strongmen are the true hybrid athletes.
They're the closest thing to it.
Yeah.
All they would need is a little bit more endurance.
Yeah. But it's like, these guys are conditioned, they're strong as fuck, they can move, they can pull, they can jump, they can swing, they can throw, they can do all the shit that like a human body is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like when Austin was here talking about it, I was like, wow, this truly is like the epitome of like training, you know what I mean? And in terms of like those big traditional styles and stuff like that, like, man, I really would like to go through a year of just like legit strongman training.
Not me.
No,
I don't feel like getting hurt or broken.
No, I love it.
Yeah. You do that. You're in the eating phase.
When my back hurts all day, oh, I love it. When I can't sit down.
The crazy thing is, if you lift this way, your back won't hurt.
Yeah. It's funny. This is kind of a tangent, but I had been telling you, right, that like my back had been sort of bothering me. And, with my deadlift, it was really like throwing me off, and I just couldn't really figure out what was going on. I started doing a little bit more mobility for my low back. Like rotation seemed to feel the best, and flexion hurt the most. Or flexion when I didn't feel good for me. And so the other day, I was doing some shit at work, and I had some time, so I was doing my little mobility things, and I had left some kettlebells out, like 2 35-pound ones, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do some Jefferson curls real quick. So I did like 3 sets of 10 and really focused on just like getting it all the way down and flexing, right? And then pulling up through and going through it. And as I was doing it, I was like, this feels good, but it also like kind of hurts, but it feels like the thing I should be doing. And
like
so
it's your weakness.
Yes, yeah. And so I was kind of going through it, and I did my 3 sets of 10, and afterwards, I could feel my back. It was like a little irritated, and it kind of had that like quote unquote burning sensation, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to do my 3 sets of 10. I'm just going to let it go, and I'm just going to go on. So I did the rest of my day. I did all my shit, bro. Like since then, it's been fucking fantastic. It feels so much better today. It's still a little bit there, but it is like way beyond what it had been for the past like weeks, literal weeks of doing mobility work and stuff like that and avoiding things, kind of deloading a little bit. But that one day of like kind of steering into the pain, right, was the day that I was the most beneficial. And I think it goes along with what you're saying there is that like, you know, it's those things that sometimes you think are going to hurt the most that you maybe need to be doing, you know? Yeah.
Just to let you know, off air, he told me the real reason was Camille blew his back out.
Yeah. I was like, oh, there it goes. Yeah, we just call it the Jefferson curl position.
Because I curled up like a ball.
But yeah, man, I think sometimes like going into the pain is, you know, done in the proper way, right? I think is sometimes what needs to be done.
People fear it.
Yeah, people fear it, right? Yeah, and I have no fear, you know. And so we were doing it. And another kind of anecdote about that is I've been working with Camille's mom. Okay, she had a surgery, and I won't say what or anything, but she had a surgery, and so I'm trying to help her kind of get back to feeling normal and stuff like that. And the other day we were kind of practicing like some gait training, like walking and things like that. And she was like, man, it really hurts and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I understand. And she was like, you know what, fuck it. I just got to let it hurt. And I was like, yeah. I was like, fuck yeah, man. Like, you just got to let it hurt sometimes. And I was like, and the more that you use it and the more that you go through those ranges that are painful and you do them properly, right? And at a gradual pace, I was like, it's going to hurt less and less and less. But yeah, sometimes you just got to let shit hurt, man.
All right. Now I want to group this next modality.
Okay.
CrossFit, F45, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What I like those for, it's to push the limit. And now F45 and Orange Theory are a little bit safer to push the limit because the things that they do versus CrossFit. CrossFit has a little bit more complexity to it. But I really like this for a muscular endurance and pushing your mental limit.
Yeah. And I mean, that is an aspect of fitness too, right? Like pushing that mental block, right? That we sometimes get about certain things. I think that, you know, funnily enough, I think people kind of run to these as their first experience in training. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, it's gone now. You know, like how many people do we know that came to us after going to Orange Theory or after going to F45 or after doing CrossFit or things like that? And I would almost say that these are things that people should be doing way later or supplemental, right? I don't know if they should ever be your primary training modality unless you're trying to be like a CrossFit competition person. Yeah. You know, that's the only time that I would ever say like, yeah, go do that. But yeah,
it's fun though.
It is fun. Yeah. Like when we did the rowing competition at Fit Bash, that should feel pretty good.
It did.
I was like,
I'm dying.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to go into someone who's saying nice things and people get mad.
Oh, okay.
So you talked about the lady.
Yeah. I think I know where you're going with this. Yeah. So on the 20th, right, we had a new president inaugurated, second time, President Donald Trump. What is his middle name? There's a J. John?
I was going to say J.
I know it's Donald J. Trump, but what does the J stand for?
Let me look this
up. I wonder
Keep on talking.
Donald Trump. You know, that's funny. Anyway, he got inaugurated, and at the inauguration, which I kind of heard was sort of like a crazy mess with the weather included, and then there was like some celebrity appearances that didn't go super well and stuff like that. But at some point, there was a priest who
John, by the way.
John. Okay. See, there you go. There was a priest that came up, and I didn't really know what the point of that was. Like, I'm assuming it's something that happens at every inauguration. I guess. Yeah. Where it was a Catholic priest, right? A cardinal, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Someone correct me. Anyway,
you're always wrong.
And they came up and they were speaking to the crowd, and then they also addressed Donald Trump individually and asked him for sort of a graciousness, a patience, a kindness towards immigrants, people of the LGBT community, which I thought was kind of crazy as like a religious person.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's pretty wild. I also believe that this priest was a female.
Correct.
Yeah. And so anyway, she made these comments. I think it was probably pretty professional, You know, I don't think she said anything out of line or anything like that. Now afterwards, though, it's everywhere. You know, no one can tell me that this isn't happening. But he was pretty upset about it. He said that she was ungracious, and that he also wants like a personal apology from the person. I don't know if you saw that.
To be nice to other people.
Yeah, that like. I guess it wasn't.
Jesus was a nice guy. Just saying. he was nice to a lot of people.
I think he was like embarrassed, right? That's the thing. He doesn't like being publicly ridiculed, right? But anyway, the thing is, and we were kind of talking about this beforehand too, is that one of the main things that he has sort of run on is like this sort of religious aspect. I don't think it's as big of a part of his like program as it was the first time. But I mean, come on, the dude was selling fucking Bibles and shit, right? So like, it's definitely a part of his brand, right? That he is like a Christian man of God type person, thing like that. And I know a lot of people side with that, right? And we'll talk about how that's a big reason why they voted for him, you know, and religion is a huge aspect, you know, we can't pretend like it isn't. Now my sort of challenge here is that if he was or is a person who is very religious, wouldn't he be like, I don't know, a little more receptive to the advice or request of a like religious figure, you know?
Or put his hand on the Bible.
Put his hand on the Bible, which he didn't do. I mean, fucking Barack Obama did it, didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
All of them have.
Yeah, and everybody was calling him.
He did it the first time that he was.
Yeah, everybody was telling him shit about being from fucking somewhere else in Middle East, and he's blah blah, and he worships the thing and all this stuff. And it's like he put his hand on the fucking Bible. Like, I don't know, man. It's hypocritical, and I don't like it for anybody. You know, I don't care if he was a Democrat or a Republican or whatever. But if you're gonna go and portray yourself as one thing, then you better like be that thing. You know?
Yeah. I mean, we're in Star Wars right now.
Yeah, dude. I think that you had a good point about that too. I like the way that you explained it.
So we're in Star Wars right now. Okay. So there's a scene in number 3, Revenge of the Sith, where Padme's sitting there.
Nerd alert. Nerd alert.
Yes. This is a big nerd moment. She's sitting there and she talks about this is how democracy goes down in a round of applause.
Yeah.
And the reason it goes down is because people are frustrated and they allow power to individuals. And on both sides, they have done this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So like on one side,
I mean, I think the last like 5 presidents we've had now, right,
have done the most executive orders and pardons. And we're giving these presidents more and more access to power.
And we're allowing it to happen.
And a perfect example, there's a video of Trump signing executive orders.
Didn't he sign like 200?
I can't
on
remember
his first
how many,
day or something
but
like that?
people are pretty much like, we love you, Trump, and we love you. And they're clapping for him. And it's like a thunderous applause when you give one person that much power. And I think my issue is we're not dealing with the root cause of what's the problem. The problem is professional politicians. The problem is allowing corporations who have money influence everything.
Yeah.
So we're allowing few people to dictate to the other people.
And as you're saying this, I'm like remembering things and
From Star Wars.
Well, that and
it happens. I'm just saying,
I bet you could make
because they get scared of the Jedi because they're like the Jedi have too much power. On one end, we need to take power away from this evil group. So let's all focus here and give this guy power so we could do what we want.
And the thing is that I remember during his first term, wasn't one of the things that he ran on like draining the swamp, right? Like getting rid of corrupt people in the government. And then everybody in the government now is like his friend and like a billionaire or something like that.
I mean, the front row was worth, oof.
Oh my God, dude. All the money in the fucking world is
that guy caught looking at some titties.
He said. So,
a lot of people talk about their side and they could justify anything.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like the pardons for the January 6th people. Well, not all of them did these like heinous things. They still broke into the White House. They still ran in. How is that not? How is
this not something that we are like still fucking furious about? And still, I can go on the other side and say on the last fucking 20 minutes of his presidency, President Biden pardoned a bunch of people that he knew, like family members and things like that, for shit that like they haven't even done yet. He like future pardoned them And so I'm like, okay, well, something's probably going to come out in the next few years about something they did. And, you know, he's just as bad. Everybody's just as bad, right? It's all sort of self influenced, you know, like it's, I don't know, it's worrisome.
So, you know, a lot of people are like talking about make America great again, right? And I don't think we're at a point where we can trust government with the money of tax money. We need good people. And we forget it's about people. But I will say this, people who talk about make America great again, in the 1970s, do you know what corporate tax rate was?
No.
46%.
Damn.
You know what they actually did with that money? Actually help people through education and funding certain things. The problem is not government. The problem is the people who we have in place of government. And when people realize government is not the issue, although I wouldn't give government too much power either.
Yeah.
I would rather have our local governments different. You know, this is where I'm a little bit of a both. Yeah. Both of them have truth, but how do we figure out what's the best combination for people? That's what I want to find. I want to find out the right answer. I don't want to be dogmatic in this.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that Dave Chappelle was on Saturday Night Live recently, and during his monologue, he like, again, also spoke like directly to Donald Trump and was like, look, man, you know, despite anything, whatever, like we're counting on you, you know, for the next 4 years to not fuck up the entire, you know, of America. But
again, I would say in that moment, Chappelle gave Trump too much power.
Yeah, I guess so.
Take power back as people.
Yeah, because you're sitting there and saying that
and take
you're
care
the
of the
only
root
one.
cause.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of funny because you have to look at it in that perspective and be like, is that where we're at though? You know, like, are we at the point where we just have to sort of be like, oh, please don't do whatever?
Are we in a dictatorship at this point? An oligarchy?
Oligarchy? Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I think people need to take back the powers. I do believe in deregulation. I think there's too much regulation on small businesses and things like that. Maybe there needs to be back at the corporate tax rate a little higher up because now these corporations are just buying everything up. Anything that like private
all the houses.
Oh my God, I can't think of the word right now, but they buy up everything, private equity, whatever. Whatever they buy up, like Alamo Draft House, they lay off employees, they make the company worse. We're not making things better for people with this concept.
We're making things better for CEOs.
And then when Red Note happened, we're starting to see things around the world a little different.
I wonder if that had anything to do with it. I wonder if it was
That's a big part of it.
I wonder if whenever everybody got off TikTok, everybody went and was like, wait, hang on. And then they were like, wait, bring TikTok back. It kept people, subdued, you know? I don't know.
It's crazy because I believe in like, you know, not taking people's guns away, right?
Yeah.
But people are like, oh, you're so democratic because you want this other stuff. I'm for healthcare and for welfare programs. I'm for food stamps. It's just how do we distribute and become more efficient at it? I think that's the problem, not the program. Because I had food stamps at one point.
Yeah, me too.
You know, and
that
they
shit rolled.
And and I worked my way out. My parents had it, and they worked their way out.
Right.
It's just to give a little safety and security. And what I try to explain to people with politics and everything, it takes a father and a mother, right? And in life, it takes support and help, but you also got to be pushed a certain way. So we need to figure out that middle ground a little bit. Now, if I give too much of the food stamps and welfare, they're never going to want to get out. Yeah. But if I don't give enough, then how are they expected to go out without revolting?
Yeah, because I mean, the reality is that like when I had food stamps, dude, there was no way we were making shit, you know, without it. Like that shit let us survive. I was fucking working at Target making $700 every 2 weeks. I'm not making shit, bro. Like, you know what I mean? If I didn't have that at the time.
We don't exist. My parents don't exist if it wasn't for those programs.
Yeah. Like all those programs that we had, WIC, Medicaid, all that shit, like fucking made my daughter survive. You know what I mean? But you know, one day they called me up and were like, hey, you make too much money now, you know, bye. And I was like, oh, fuck. But it's also good, you know,
because you to work harder at that point.
Yeah. Cause now I'm like, okay, well then I make too much money now, you know, like I got to go and fucking figure it out.
The problem is people think a lot of people take advantage of the system, which they do.
Yeah, they do.
There's always people take advantage, but there's people who really need it, we just need to become more efficient. And I think that's the problem, right? Yeah. It's the efficiency of the government. That's where like, I think local and making it smaller would make a huge difference. See, I like a lot of Republican
Yeah,
ideas, right?
there you go.
But also like the other part of it.
Edwin
I'm
for
about
president.
finding the right answer.
Let's make shirts that say MFGA, make fitness great again.
Yes.
There we go.
Let's move on to like people we're fucking up. The Bumble CEO is already leaving the company as shares have fell 54% since killing the signature feature, letting men to message first.
Dude, why did they do that? I don't understand why they took that feature away. Like, who is asking for it? There's every other app ever is fucking men messaging people first. And it's like Bumble had that one niche thing.
I think they came in the right time when women were fighting for this empowerment that we're equal, quote unquote. Equal doesn't mean we're equal in everything. Equal means we have different things.
Yeah.
And women are finally admitting that they like to be pursued.
Yeah.
They don't like, and then they started figuring out like, oh, what men do is actually fucking hard. Right. And then that's why they opened it up.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to approach somebody and try to like talk to them and date them.
But then I wonder why then the shares are falling.
Because the shares are falling because what it was built on.
Yeah. It had one
niche.
Yeah.
Like, it's no longer there. It's just a regular dating app at this point then.
Yeah, it's no different than the other ones. Yeah, it's really true, man. I don't know. It's funny though that you say that because anecdotally, Camille, right, has told me that there's a Bumble version called Bumble BFF, right, where you go and like try and find friends, right? And one of her close friends that she still hangs out with now, she actually met through there. But she would tell me that she was like, dude, it is so hard to talk to women. You will go in there and say like, hey, what's up? Like, I really like, whatever. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I like this, like XYZ. And then it's just like, you want to go do
she
whatever?
Has to carry the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you have to like push this conversation along. And she's like, this shit fucking sucks. And I was like, yeah, now try imagining your entire life that way.
Yeah. Imagine being a man and you can't show your feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. So there was a good post. It's a great podcast I like listening to. It's called Modern Wisdom.
Yeah.
And dang, he's British. What is his name? Chris Williamson.
Yeah.
And he talks about men can't really show feelings because if they do, we're taught that women leave.
Or I think I don't know if it was the same one or maybe another one that I had showed you about like gaining man points.
That's correct. It was on that one too.
Right. Yeah. And so like this concept of man points, right, is that you're not allowed to do these things like showing emotions, talking about your feelings, even acting like depressed or sad or any of those types of things, unless you've amassed like a certain amount of essentially like respect, right, or credibility until you can do that. Like for a good example, he was like Christian Bumstead, right, probably greatest bodybuilder of our generation at the moment, right, is he can go and on Instagram and talk about how it's hard and difficult and how being a parent is tough and be sad and talk about his depression and things like that. But the guy's a fucking 6-time Olympian. He's
the manliest looking man.
He's got a fucking mustache, bro. And he's jacked as hell. And it's like he can do that because he has the credibility, right, as a man to do that. Now, if you don't make a certain go ahead.
Before you go, I know you're saying. Another example of this is Caleb Williams. He was in college. He cried on his mom's shoulder and he was ridiculed. That he couldn't play football at the next level, that he wasn't man enough because he didn't earn enough man points.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because there's this narrative, around now, especially where it's like, you're supposed to be more communicative. Men are trying to be more empowered. I think so, in terms of like their relationships and things like that. I think that at least like our generation of men try really hard to like communicate with their women and things like that. I find that that's something that I see a lot talking to clients my age or older clients too, like they really try to do these communicative things and stuff like that. But also a lot of them are very successful. They own businesses. We
have a certain bias towards one direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that if I'm someone who's maybe struggling, maybe it's me on the food stamps, right? Maybe it's me struggling to be a parent or struggling to get a job or things like that. Like, dude, I've had partners in the past be like, get over it and just go make more money. Like, what's your problem? And that shit fucking hurt, bro. Like it's to this day, I still think about it, and I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. you know, but if I had maybe owned a business like we do now, or was a successful personal trainer or something like that, and I had talked about how stressed I was, you know, maybe it would have been a different response. You know, maybe they would have been like, oh, you just keep working, you do a lot, you know, you try really hard. But at that time, I didn't have enough man points, you know? Yeah.
I can tell you this. It's not just man points within your community and stuff, but also, is your partner developed, or have they grown so much where they can understand men have emotions too?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the hard part, because men are taught to grow up and help with women's emotions, but women are not taught to help a man with his emotions. Yeah. Yet you want a man to be vulnerable,
open and vulnerable.
And when he becomes vulnerable, and he's taught over and over, being vulnerable is being weak, and being weak doesn't allow you to stay in a relationship. Yeah. Why is a man going to open up?
It's a learned situation. Behavior, you know, right? Yeah, it's a learned behavior. Like, it's just, you know, X happens, so then Y happens. You know what I mean? It just follows. And it's funny that you're talking about like kind of managing feelings and stuff like that, and how girls and men are different. So recently, my daughter was hanging out with me on the couch, and Camille was like doing something on the stairs, and my daughter was like, she was like, Dada, like, how do you get a Valentine? And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, how do you get someone to be your Valentine? And I was like, well, you know, I would just go ask them. Like, why don't you just go ask them? Like, maybe make them a card or something like that. Like, you just go and ask, like, hey, do you want to be my Valentine? If they say no, that's okay. You know, you just move on and maybe ask someone else or whatever it is, you know. And she was telling me a story about like one of her friends, I guess, asked someone to be their Valentine. They said no, and that she was like really upset about it, like everything. And I was like, damn, women can't handle rejection. And Camille was like, nope. But I was laughing because I was like, she doesn't even have a concept of how to do that. And I even told her, I was like, maybe you should ask a girl, like kind of like tagging Camille in. And Camille was like, dude, I don't know how. She was like, I've never asked someone to be my Valentine. Like, I've only ever been asked, you know? And I was like, that's crazy, dude. That like,
and it goes back to that Bumble argument, right? Yeah. It's just something that is not done a lot.
Yeah.
Like, most and it's time like, as a guy, you have to go.
And telling my daughter that, like, she literally was like, but how am I supposed to ask? And I was like, you just go fucking do it. But it's like, I think that you sit there and you go like, whoa, that means there's a chance of rejection. That means that I have to put in effort. That means that I have to like go and be nervous. And it's like, you sit there and you go, nah, never mind, I don't want to do it. And it's like, that's every day for a man, you know, especially a single guy.
I mean, even within our business, we have to go ask people, you want to get training or whatever. Oh my God. Yeah. You have to learn how to be rejected.
You gotta just take it and just be like, okay, you know, and move on to the next one.
It's part of life, man. Rejection. Yeah. Reject. All right, let's go into our studies. Our first study is a large study that was done on adults with ADHD. Found that 60% of people, of these individuals, reported some type of sleep disorder, specifically 36% having problems with falling asleep, delayed sleep onset, 31% report insomnia, 29% report restless leg syndrome, and periodic limb movement disorder. This is published by the Journal of Attention Disorders.
Interesting. You know, I have some clients who have ADD or ADHD, right? I have two, and I won't say who they are or anything, but they both, after I read this, I didn't really correlate it, but both of them constantly tell me about how they have trouble sleeping, how they can't go to sleep without medication, or, you know, they're super tired and they lay down and they're like, and they have to like get up and go do something. And I don't know if it's during that time where your brain isn't being stimulated, right? That it like tries to find something to stimulate. But it was interesting to after I read that, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's why.
I also wonder if it stems from they don't wake up and get enough sun in their eyes. They don't get enough movement throughout the day.
Right. Yeah. Maybe high cortisol levels of always being stressed out.
Yeah. Always being stressed out. So because they have ADHD or ADD, they're more likely to have these issues because of that. Because as we know, I'm a squirrel. I'm a dog squirrel. Yeah. Right. And I think the reason I get constant sleep, I make sleep a priority.
You
And I think not enough people do that.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. Just generally, right? Even if you didn't have a fucking attention disorder, still people don't make sleep a priority, right? And then you add this on top of it. Now, this is something that maybe doesn't really correlate as much, but I kind of thought about it like reverse. And I was like, I wonder if the fact that they can't sleep then in turn causes them to have this attention disorder. Like, is the sleep the real disorder or is it the ADHD? You know, like, you know, it's.
And that's why studies are not always great, because the correlations is there. But did they actually follow these people and they like see how stressed they were? And did they see how they woke up in the morning? Did they exercise? Did they sleep the night before the same time and keep the routine? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah. And I would imagine that someone that does have ADHD, it's probably really hard for them to do those things, right? And they would have to really, really prioritize it. Like you said, right? They have to make a conscious effort to sleep well or to go to the gym or do whatever it is.
Or did they eat too much late?
Yeah. What is their caffeine intake like? Are they taking their medication? You know? And, you know, in studies, there's a lot where it's like correlation doesn't always mean causation, right? So it's very interesting. And I wonder if people who do have ADHD who are listening to this, I wonder if you try to prioritize that sleep a little bit more, really make a conceited effort to it, if you would maybe feel better. Yeah.
All right, we'll go to study number 2. This one's, does increasing volume lead to more gains?
Oh, right? Yeah.
So this was a 12-week study in trained females. So these females already worked out. They had 3 groups. They did 2 times a week. They did squat, leg press, and leg extension. And within them, they had a consistent group, which is a controlled group, and they did 22 sets per week. Then there was a group that started at 16 sets, and they added 2 sets every 2 weeks. And then the third group, the 4-set group, did 18 sets to begin with and added 4 sets every 2 weeks. And they measured parts of the muscle, right? And their leg press 1 rep max. So the results, the average volume for controlled group was 22 sets. Average volume for the 2-set group was 21 sets. The average volume for the 4-set group was 28 sets. Peak volume stayed at 22 for the group, controlled group. The 2-set group, peak volume, 26 sets. And then peak volume for the 4-set group was 38 sets. So the group that actually did the best was the 4-set group.
Right.
Because they increased volume quite a bit.
Comparatively to the control group.
Compared to the group. Even the 2-set group did a little bit better than the controlled group at the end of it, whether it was measuring the muscle fibers or rep 1 rep max, the group that did the most volume. And so what this study actually, I believe, leads to is the concept of progressive overload still is king.
Yes. And I also thought that it was cool that they kind of took the concept of progressive overload in a different way, right? Normally we talk about adding weight, right, to progressively overload, but adding in sets and reps is another way to progressively overload, right? And especially now, let me preface this by saying that the increase in volume here between the reps and the sets, I think helps with muscle growth, right? Which is kind of what they were focusing on here. I don't think that it would be the same if they were measuring strength, right? That would be a little bit different. That's where I would say that the actual weight increase would be the most important thing. But yeah, it's interesting to see this. Now, it's funny because the same guy did a post the other day where he was talking about how people are always trying to sort of like be like science-based lifters and be like, I need to do this many sets per week or else my muscles won't grow or blah, 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 whatever, you know? Now, I think one of the things that was interesting in here is that they said that there was no statistically significant differences between the 4-set group and the 2-set group, right? So in between those 2 groups by themselves, between each other, there wasn't that much difference, right? Nothing to be statistically significant. Now there was difference, but statistically.
Imagine that group started smaller than the controlled group and the other group, and there's no statistically difference.
Yeah, and so the thing is that as long as you're doing these sets and like being consistent and progressively overloading, it, you know, whether you do 38 sets or 28 sets, right? It's still going to matter, you know, and you're still going to get something from it.
Yeah. And I think where the study falls short, it stops at 12 weeks. What
that
happens
too.
after the 12 weeks?
Yeah.
How do I change my progressive overload? Because a lot of people are like, well, they said by sets, and how many sets? Well, maybe it's changing exercises.
Yeah, because
Or
the other
changing
thing
range of
too,
motion.
I think another thing that kind of falls short about this study is that, yeah, it's 12 weeks, but like, what am I supposed to do? More sets and more sets and more sets and more sets? You know?
Yeah, like my life, I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't do 52 sets, you know, like through a week.
Sorry, guys, I can't go to work. Gotta do my 52 sets.
I'm in the gym for the next 6 hours, you know? And so I think that's where it falls short too. Maybe this will work good for like a phase. You know, I think it would be cool to do that to see, okay, what if instead of increasing weight, I just do more sets, right? That would be an interesting thing to see. But yeah, you know, like we talked about earlier, it's like not every study is perfect, but I do think that this is a really cool study. And I also like that they did it with women instead of men. Yeah.
All right, let's go to our 4 fitness questions. The first one is, I used to work out 6 days a week, but I haven't worked out in forever. Should I just go back to 6 days a week?
Oh,
Yeah, you could do 6 days a week.
yeah.
As long as you do like trusted intensity, like maybe one day do strength training, the next day do cardio, the next day do mobility, and then go strength training, cardio, mobility. And you could do 6 days a week.
Yeah.
It's just your intensity has to change from where you start at.
And then over time, you know, as maybe the months go by or whatever, you can add in that extra strength training day or whatever you were doing for those 6 days per week. I would definitely not jump right back into it, because I think that also with that, there's like that mental aspect where you go in and you're like, fuck, I can't lift as much as I used to, or I can't, you know, I'm really tired.
I'm hurting so bad because I strength trained.
Yeah. It's only 3 days and I'm super tired already and I don't want to go to the gym anymore. Like, you got to give yourself that space, you know, especially if it's been a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, and just start slow. Just like if we got a newbie, just pretend you're a newbie.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of makes it fun.
All right. Question number 2. What is something I can do to make fitness easier for me? I don't want to lift weights and get a bunch of muscle.
You big baby? Big baby, you want to be big and strong? You eat your spinach?
No, start with group classes.
Oh, yeah.
Start with Pilates and yoga and boot camp class. Look, as long as you get going at the beginning, and then we could talk about lifting weights, because you have to lift weights at a certain point, just like you have to do mobility, just like you have to do cardio. Do the things you enjoy first, and then slowly add the things that you may not enjoy as much.
Yeah, I would honestly sit down and be like, what sounds fun? Does going out and joining like a volleyball league sound fun to you? Go do that.
I'm short, bro. No.
Yeah. Or like you said, you know, is going and joining a F45 something that sounds cool to you? Go do it. And I think also there's that domino effect that once you start doing that thing and you really like it, you're going to be like, okay, cool. Maybe I should go to the gym and work out. And things become easier, right? As you add more things in slowly.
Yeah. The only problem I have with like group class stuff is a lot of those group class instructors act like that's the only thing they do for their workouts, and a lot of them strength train.
I'm pretty sure they probably only do it when they're being filmed on Instagram.
They do it for fun. I'll tell you that.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
A lot of them do individual work.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 3. What's 3 high protein items that are a must for you that is not meat?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Yeah,
Eggs.
go for it. Okay. Well, does that count as meat?
That's not meat.
No.
They're eggs.
It doesn't count as poultry? That's not chicken?
Okay.
Do eggs count as chicken?
Whey protein.
Okay.
And then I would go.
But that's cheese though.
Yogurt.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Yogurt.
Whey
protein. I would say eggs, but this motherfucker says eggs are meat. I don't know. Who would be my third protein source?
I think a lot about my clients who are
beans, legumes.
Yeah, who are vegetarian due to like culture or religion or things like that. They eat a lot of Greek yogurt. They'll do a lot of like protein powder and like oatmeal or things like that. So I think protein powder is another good one. Some of them will do tofu.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I don't like tofu.
I mean, if you enjoy it, great.
Maybe I don't know how to cook it. You know, I'm gonna put that on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing.
Maybe you're culturally insensitive.
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be so insensitive to these people.
One of my clients has told me that black chickpeas is another good source of protein. I've never looked into it, so I don't really know.
It's gonna have beans and legumes have carbs with them, so it makes it really hard.
Yeah.
To be high protein. Overall.
Yes, and like A lot of legumes also have a large amount of fat. Also, so it's like
your best bet is if you could get dairy. To be
yeah,
honest.
dairy would be probably the best. So like
That's why the Mongolians were actually really strong back in the day.
Because they'd be eating cheese, huh?
Cheese, and dairy, and they had that was their big advantage.
Milk is probably a good one. Milk is probably a third thing that I would say that you should probably do, like a whole milk.
But can you have milk?
No. It's all creamy.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 4: is natural bodybuilding healthier than drug bodybuilding? Like steroid use?
Yes.
I'm gonna give you some nuances.
Okay.
I thought about this because I was the one that was given the answer.
Okay.
Question. Healthy bodybuilding is not healthy.
Okay. All right.
Steroid bodybuilding is not healthy.
Yeah.
On both extremes.
Yeah.
Now, doing bodybuilding with TRT help is a little healthier because when you get to that bottom levels, your hormone profile is still a lot better. But you're not drugged high, or you're not drugged or having no drugs where your hormones plateau and just go bottom out.
So you're saying that that's actually probably
they're both unhealthy in their own ways.
Right. It's actually would be beneficial, right, to be on something at that
like
point.
A replacement dose, not so much a dose that is so high.
Yeah.
Like the stacks that I've seen online are crazy.
It's scary.
Talk about grams, not milligrams, grams of stuff.
These dudes are like laboratory scientists.
Bro. I saw 1,000 milligrams. I was like, 1,000 milligrams is a gram.
God damn. So where do you even get the money for that shit, dude?
Well, dude, some people want to be big regardless.
Yeah, I guess so.
So that's
you make a good point. You make a good point. Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm great. I know. I think most people think, you take no supplements or you do it all natural. It must be healthier, right?
Yeah.
It's like the concept of like people like, well, we ate this way when we were back then in a tribe. Yeah, we didn't go to 40 or 50 years old.
Yeah. You also died when you were 25.
Yeah. So, like, is it really better all because it's natural?
Yeah.
And this goes back to like us talking about both sides. Like we're extreme as people for whatever reason. Yes, natural is great. And yes, using these things to help. But what tools do we need and when do we need them is what really matters in life overall. Whether it's politics, whether it's your health, whether it's your finances. How do you figure out what tools you need for you as an individual versus this is the right way versus the wrong way? And everybody wants to be right instead of finding out the right answer. And that's where we need to get to in life is finding out the right answer. Yeah. All right, guys. If y'all like what we do, please share, like, subscribe. We're on Apple, Spotify. You can rate and review us. Check us out on YouTube. Hit the link below. Subscribe, comment. Then if you're looking for our website, strengthsolutionspodcast.com. Free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Then our social media, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, Strength Solutions Podcast. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Until next time, guys. What? Peace out.